Bishalach 5781 Yi Ratzon the Limud Shebile Refuat Kol HaCholim V'Docham Tani Batod Margalit Yosef Yair Ben Aviv Achava Harav Sivan Ben Sima B'Tor Kol Shar Cholei Israel. We know the beginning of Sefer Shmot dealt with exile and the experience of leaving Egypt. And even though we left Egypt, Egypt didn't leave us. So we needed the story of Yam Suf to not only leave the place, but also leave the people, leave the culture, leave the mindset. And it's interesting in our Parsha, the things that happen right after the story of Kriyat Yam Suf. That after Kriyat Yam Suf, we were able to really release ourselves from the culture, from the people, from the mindset of Egypt. But immediately after, we learn about the story of the man. And we learn about the special food that came from Shamayim. And it's very important to think, what's the message that Hashem is giving the Jewish people? That right after they're redeemed, He gives them the man. And so Moreinu Rabbeinu Rav Kook, to understand the man in a little bit of a deeper level, in his Sidur Olat Re'ayah, he speaks about that there are two sustenances that Hashem gives us directly from the sky. One of them is the man, the food that we speak about in this parsha, the bread or delicacy, whatever you want to call it, that comes directly from Shamayim to the world, versus rain, mayim, that is the second thing that Hashem gives the Jewish people, the world, a direct sustenance. So explains Rav Kook, what's the difference between the man and the mayim? Because they're both coming directly from the sky. And if we think about it on a more Hasidic level, the man is two letters, it's mem and nun. Mem is 40, nun is 50, together that's 90. And mayim is three letters, mem, yud, mem. Mem is 40, yud is 10, and another 40 is 90. So they're both coming on the same gematria level. They're both 90. But what's the difference? What's the difference between the man and the mayim? When we think about the man, it's called chesed. That it comes directly from the sky and it needs zero involvement of human beings. Hashem brings it to the world, you put it into your mouth. No processing, no building, no changing, no adding, no salt, no pepper. Comes down, put it in your mouth, everything's good. The water, in contrast, is something that is also amazing, and it enables all the living of the world and all the creatures to survive. But it's something that in order for man to get enjoyment, there needs to be process. Rain on its own is not going to give us sustenance. We need to first build a pit, receive the water, bring the water out, then plant it, then use it, then develop it, then clean it. There's a lot of things that man needs to do with the water. And so says Rav Kook, that's why in davening we say gvurot kshamim, that rain obviously is chesed, but the way it's presented, like we see in Masechet Ta'anit, is that it's presented through gvura, that it's limited, that Hashem is not giving us His full hands. He's giving us an ability. He's not giving us the end zone. He's not giving us the conclusion. He's not giving us the result. That is leaving up to you. And so the first food that Hashem gives Am Yisrael immediately after Yam Suf is specifically not mayim. It's rather man. And what the man is saying is that before man learns about his abilities, before he becomes involved, before he changes things, the greatest present for a nation that's beginning their journey is to learn that they are dependent. They're dependent on Hashem. And therefore also dependent on one another. They're dependent on not taking too much of the man, Because if you take too much, someone else won't have. And therefore, the number one food that Hashem gives is different than the water. He's saying, before you become independent, before you learn about your ability to change, develop, help, assist, recognize that number one, you are dependent. And the message that Hashem is giving us as we go in to the story of redemption is that if you want something to last, you are not allowed to think of it in an independent way. If you want something strong, independent is so important. If you want something that's exalted, learn about your ability to change and develop. But if you're looking for the answer, for what's going to make things last long term for everyone, learn about the beauty of being dependent. Bezrat Hashem, we're nearing the ending, hopefully, Bezrat Hashem, of the disease and the infection of the corona. And one of the things that's going to happen, Bezrat Hashem, is that we're going to become very independent again. We're going to fly all over the world. We're going to make all the things that we used to do. We're going to have our ability to plan things and not have everything be canceled because this happened and this happened and this happened. But in the last year, we learned how dependent we are on one another. That when one is in isolation, they can't take out their garbage. They're living in a world where they're dependent. And obviously, we would prefer to learn all of this from the man. But one of the things that we can develop within ourselves is the beauty and the blessing of learning that it's not weak to be dependent on people. It means that we're aware that we're not trying to worship ourselves. Bezrat Hashem, the bracha, as we go into Parshat Bishalach, into the story of redemption, is that we get to the redemption from the corona, but that we learn that the language that we need to learn is to be linked to the past, to be aware of the future, to be linked to each other, and not to try to constantly become all the time on our own, separated in our own boxes, and forget about the beautiful circle that we could be a part of.